Hello everyone, and welcome to Intro to Management. Last class we discussed the differences between management and leadership. Today we have the following objectives to our lesson. Understand how cultural orientation influences leadership strategy and design. Define what cultural orientation means. Provide examples of cultural orientation, and how the cultural orientation of a workplace impacts our leadership strategy. Before we get started, let's recap some of what we learned last time we met. Every leader is a manager, but not every manager is a leader. From what we learned last class, who can tell me what that means? Yes, very good, Susie. As you can see on the board, definitions of both management and leadership, it goes to show that, as you mentioned, not every manager has the strategic process or influence. They're more focused on day-to-day operations, and that's what their responsibilities are. Whereas leaders, as Susie mentioned, leaders not only have to be concerned with day-to-day, overseeing that, but they're thinking about long-term strategy. What are the goals? Who does the company want to be? Where do they want to go in terms of potential customers, markets, things like that? So very good, Susie. Management focuses on everyday, day-to-day operations, making sure that things get done that have to get done. As the definition says, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling of human and other resources to make sure that it's done efficiently and effectively. Whereas leadership exerts influence over others, as well as the ability to inspire, motivate, and help achieve organizational goals. Okay, very good. Now, who can give me an example of each? All right, give me an example of a manager and then an example of a leader. Yeah, okay. All right, Joey? Yes, very good. A manager, a store manager at Apple, and then Steve Jobs. It's a perfect example of a day-to-day manager, and then Steve Jobs, the former founder of Apple. Unfortunately, he passed away, but he was really the visionary. He inspired people at Apple as well as people all over the world, and was very successful. Almost every person has at least one Apple product in this room. Anyone? Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so again, in a nutshell, management focuses on the day-to-day operations, and leadership focuses on the big picture, inspiring the masses, developing strategy. All right, so now for today, as you read in the text, Gert Hofstede established 6 dimensions of national culture that helps to define basic issues that a society needs to organize itself. And specifically, he did a big study on how companies utilize these 6 dimensions of culture to form their strategy and to be the most successful organizations they can be. Today, we are going to focus on cultural orientation, the first major component, the first major dimension of his 6 dimensions. The dimensions, cultural dimensions, can help shape organizational culture of a workplace and can serve as a way for organizational leaders to best develop strategy. All right, before we define cultural orientation, what do you think organizational culture means? Shu? Yes. It is the way that people behave in the workplace, how people think in the workplace. Very good. The definition of organizational culture is the way in which members of an organization relate to each other, their work, and the outside world in comparison to other organizations. So what do you think it means? What is cultural orientation regarding a country? Okay. Anyone? Sam? Yes, okay. Yes, it is how a country operates. Very good. Hofstede defined cultural orientation in 2 ways, 2 major ways. The first, individualism. It's the extent to which people feel independent as opposed to being interdependent as members of a larger whole. It places the importance on the individual rather than extended family or work organization. The individual versus the larger group. And collectivism is the opposite of individualism, the extent to which individuals are inclined towards remaining in groups. It places a great deal of emphasis on the extended family, work groups, communities, organizations, nations, etc. So I have these definitions on the board. Make sure you understand those. Are there any questions about the definition of individualism and collectivism? No? Okay. All right. So there's this management consultant, graduate of Harvard Business School, and he formed a company that does management consulting all around the world. And his name is Andrew Malinsky, and he tells me a story of a hotshot management consultant sent by his firm to a Japanese company to help motivate an underperforming company reach their sales goals. Upon his arrival, he sets up contests pitting the top salesmen against each other to establish healthy competition. And he wanted to see who wanted it more and to recognize the top performer, hoping that this ritual, this contest, would inspire and motivate the underperformers. It failed miserably. Why would it fail miserably? What do you think went wrong? He had an MBA from an Ivy League university, and his strategy worked wonderfully the last time he used it in Philadelphia. So what do you think went wrong? She, yes, she. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Japan is a collectivist country. They're focused on unity, on working as teams, and they don't appreciate when people are overly ambitious, overly aggressive, or competing one against another. They're more focused on the team being successful. So naturally, that individualistic approach towards sales and having a competition would fall flat. Very, very good, very good. So what types of factors do you think that cultural orientation will influence leadership? How do you think it will influence leadership strategy in the workplace? Yes. Oh, utilization of teams, exactly, right? If it's individualistic, you have more individual competitions. Collectivists, you work with teams. Very good. Company values, yeah, absolutely. Whether they're more concerned about society as a whole, the success of the organization, or whether they are grooming individual superstars, so to speak. Pay, yes, pay, absolutely. How are people motivated? Pay, yes, absolutely. Pay, title, sure. So depending on whether an organization is individualistic or collectivist, that will depend on how leadership motivates. That will influence. Will it be individual goals or will it be rewarded for group goals? What are the motivations? What's the overall inspiration, the purpose? So very, very good. Three ways, very good. All right, so now I'd like everyone to pair up with someone from another country or culture if possible and learn their cultural orientation and make a list of 3 aspects of their work life that are influenced by the orientation of their country. So, okay, go to it. All right, I'll be here with any questions. Okay, excellent. All right, so Xinyi, you met with Joey. Xinyi's from China, and they're a collectivist country. Her father works as a project manager for an international trade company. Tell me 3 things. They feel to place importance on their organization, strongly committed to their workplace, yes. They're very serious about their organization's reputation in the community and globally. And they feel the success of the organization is more important than individual recognition. Excellent. Excellent, Joey. Thank you for sharing. Xinyi, thank you for sharing that. Okay, folks. We need to wrap it up for today, but before we leave, let's recap today's learning. Does anyone have questions before I do the recap? Okay, great. To recap, we established how cultural orientation influences leadership strategy. We defined cultural orientation. We provided some examples of cultural orientation and how cultural orientation of a workplace influences leadership strategy. Okay? So for your homework, it's on the board here. Research, analyze, and describe the cultural orientation of 3 companies. Check the website for details. 500 words, 12-point font, Times New Roman, and describe 3 companies. Okay? If there are any questions, email me or contact. Thank you very much.